Welcome to Women Don't Do That, where we empower you with inspiration, knowledge, and skills to redefine your boundaries and unleash your potential. I'm Stephanie Minton, founder and CEO of Beacon North Strategies and your guide. Small town girl turned CEO while navigating career, motherhood, ADHD, and chronic migraines. Our conversations range from interviews with visionary women to solo episodes filled with actionable insights. We are your hub for turning what ifs into let's go. Are you ready to redefine your possible? Let's get started. I am so excited to tell you about today's guest for the podcast. It is Catherine McKenna. You've seen her in Canadian politics, and you've definitely heard an opinion about her. She's a climate advocate, a former cabinet minister, and the author of Run Like a Girl. This episode is about leading through chaos, fighting for big policy, protecting your energy, and still showing up as a human and a mom. And Catherine and I uncover a project that we both worked on years apart that we're both genuinely really proud of. And I can't wait for you to hear what it is. It's the kind of thing that proves that advocacy takes time and teamwork. So make sure to check it out. I followed Catherine for years because I also work in politics, and I learned so much about her that I actually didn't know. It is a great episode, and I hope that you check it out. You will leave with a fresh perspective on resilience and permission to do things your own way. Welcome, Catherine.
It's great to be here, Stephanie.
I'm so excited to have you here. And as someone who loves politics, it's a real honor to be spending time with you today. We'd like to get to know our guests more by asking things like, what motivates you to live your best life?
Well, I have three kids, so certainly that motivates me. I mean, sometimes you have no choice. You got to get up in the morning and make sure they go to school. But it's also, I mean, certainly what motivates me on climate. It's not easy working on climate, but it's critically important. And it's an issue that they face right now and young people face around the world. And unfortunately, it's only getting worse. Sometimes it seems leaders don't recognize that as they delay action. So, it's really about what needs to be done to ensure a safe future for them and, kids around the world and future generations.
hmm What age are your kids now?
So my kids now, two are in university, one's heading off in university. And when I was in politics, they were quite young.
Mhm.
And then I left politics and people were like, why are you leaving politics? And it was like for two basic reasons. One, to spend more time with my kids before they headed off to university. And it was a really hard time for them and for me during COVID and like so many other parents. There was just so
Mhm.
much online time and it wasn't always great time offline where I'd be like, let's do another game. And they're like, actually, I
Mhm.
really don't want to play another game with you.
Mhm.
And then also to focus on climate. So now it's great. They're kind of going their own way. Soon my youngest will be at university too. And it's pretty awesome to see. But of course, things are really hard for their generation. They've always grown up with a climate crisis. They had to live through COVID, which was absolutely terrible
Mhm.
for them in terms of socializing and just basic activities like going to school and sports. And now, they have AI, and what jobs are they going to have? So, but it's great to see them kind of figure out their own thing because, you often want to try to influence them. They never became competitive swimmers, much to
Right.
my dismay, because I was a swimmer, but they're doing their own thing.
That sounds great. Mine are 15 and 12, almost 15 actually and 12. But when you talk about COVID, it definitely brings back a lot of memories. During COVID, I was working part-time for an organization called Children First Canada, who runs the Young Canadians Parliament. And so when you talk about issues like climate change, those are things we hear a lot from the kids across Canada about some of the things that they really care deeply about. And also just that time during the pandemic because I was doing advocacy for them and they did research reports. So talking, going to leaders and talking about the challenges of kids and bringing them for lobby days and stuff too, which was always a lot of fun to have their voices front and center, which I know from your book that you're really passionate about hearing from children's voices too, which is great to hear.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was interesting when I was in politics. I would often have young people, kids or, teens coming up to me or even young adults saying, like, I really care about climate and this is what I'm doing. It could be something with their school or something volunteering or, they're marching on the streets. And so I would, with the younger kids, because obviously the older kids wouldn't be as keen, we would do pinky swears. And it's great because I'm out of politics now, so I kind of don't owe anything to, electors, people in Ottawa Centre, and across Canada, but I do owe something to these kids. I promised that I would work on climate. They promised they would work on climate. So just got to keep on going.
Mm. So I mean, a lot of people will know you from your work in politics, and I learned a lot actually from your book about the all kinds of different work that you've done and really important things that you've been a part of and experiences that you've had. So to give an update about what does life look like right now for you?
It's a little bit chaotic. I kind of thought I would have more control once I left politics, which I do in that I decide what I do. But right now, I wear multiple hats. When I left politics, rode my bike over a footbridge that we'd built with the community. I just decided I didn't want to work for anyone else. People came and approached me to run things or be part of things. And I just thought I needed my independence. And you read, as you said, you read a bit about my background. Like I started a charity with a friend called Canadian Lawyers Abroad. I've got this entrepreneurial streak, but also an independent streak. So I just incorporated. So I incorporated a company called Climate and Nature Solutions. So we do consulting work around the world, everything from work with Indigenous peoples on large scale, not large scale nature conservation to work with like very large renewable companies to clean tech startups, to philanthropies working on climate. So that is one part of my work, and I have, a team that are really great, actually all women right now. I also was asked quite soon after I left politics, and I didn't expect it. The UN Secretary General asked me to be the chair of his task force on net zero commitments of companies, financial institutions, cities, and regions. He was in particular worried about greenwashing and wanted to have very clear standards. So I led an expert group across the world
Mm.
to set out really clear criteria. If you're going to put up your hand and say you're going to be net zero, what you got to do the work. So we
Mm.
explained that it's not just this long-term, far out goal. You have to actually do things like reduce your emissions now and have a plan and have an interim plan and
Hmm.
have scale money to clean. So I do that. I'm still in that role. The Secretary General asked me to continue, so I just launched my report. So now it's me just in the role as chair. I launched my report at COP, so in Brazil. That was a lot of work for me and my team. I also do a number of other things. I advise boards. I am often associated with universities. I was associated with Columbia's Climate School, London School of Economics. Now I'm back. Like I was doing more abroad, maybe even mentally. Now I'm like, okay, we got to do more in Canada. So I'm looking at maybe doing some more work with my alma mater, U of T. So I do a full range of things. We started an initiative called Women Leading on Climate. It's a little bit on the side of our desk, but it's grown by humongous leaps and bounds. We did a massive social media campaign to get women's voices to the climate negotiations. There was an event at the climate negotiations, and now we have chapters in Canada, in the US, in Europe, so around the world now. So it's great. I don't know. I just like it's a variety of things, and my basic principle is I just work with people I like on things that I think are important and scalable.
I love that. I feel like once people get the entrepreneur bug, it's hard to stop. And then I know for myself, like it's quite nice to own your own business and work for yourself and own your time a bit more. And I can just imagine after a job like being in
Yeah.
politics where you own very little. So
Yeah, I mean, I kind of did often my own thing because I really felt I was minister. But yes, there were a lot of people telling you what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and I was, kind of done with that. So yeah, it's kind of freedom. But as you said, like as I said to you, like I do a lot of travel. I guess I forgot to mention, yes, I have a book. So
Yes, we're going to
my
talk
book,
about that.
Run Like a Girl, that also requires a fair bit of travel. I've done launches in here in Ottawa, but also in the US and across the country, and I'm still doing book tour related stuff. So
Right.
there's a lot going on, a lot going on.
Yes, yeah. It sounds like you're very busy. Sounds like a typical busy working mom, right? Like people.
Totally. I mean, it's a little bit different with older kids because you have to just
Yes.
be kind of still around and on it, but they don't always need you every minute of the day, nor do they want you there every minute of
Yes.
the day. But yep, just busy and being a mom. And my mom moved. My dad passed away, so like how it's also like helping my mom and how
Hmm.
so it's just like regular like people always think sometimes if you're in a particular role or they saw you publicly that you would be totally different from everyone else. Like I still try to get through the day. I was like I have a list of all the light bulbs in my house that have gone out. I was like, why am I so lazy? And it's not
Yes.
that I'm lazy, it's just priorities. So
Yes, this is very, very limited time.
yeah.
So tell us more about the book. Why this book and why now, I guess.
Well, I mean, it's interesting how it's perceived. People like, they want to put you in categories. And so this is, often perceived as a political memoir. I don't
Mm-hmm.
see it as a political memoir. Yes, it talks about my time in politics, but it's not really just
Hmm.
about politics.
Yes.
It's really what I've learned about making change. And my background was not on the climate and the environment. My background was originally in human rights. And I often, like when I was young, I just saw these things going on. Like, I'm old, but there was a famine in Ethiopia. Unfortunately, there are many famines, but when I was growing up, and I remember there was Live Aid, this concert. So that's actually how you got a lot of attention to. And it was
Mm-hmm.
just talking about the need to raise awareness and money for these, people who were dying, including young kids. And I just couldn't understand it. I was like, how is it that possible that leaders would let this happen? We have so much food in the world, and I didn't know how to do it. And then I went to undergraduate and studied international relations. I still had no idea I would make change, but I really wanted to make change. And then in the book, I talk about that. Like when I became a lawyer, you learn about human rights, very abstract. But then there was this particular incident when I was in Indonesia where I moved and where young people were shot. And I was like, oh, okay, this is what it is like to fight for democracy. And
Hmm.
that's when I really was like, okay, I need to use my skills, my law degree. I'm not exactly sure how to do it. So it's about a journey. It's also, I think, I mean, I feel like it has multiple purposes.
Hmm.
I mean, I started writing it in the pandemic because I was kind of bored, but I also had this idea like run like a girl. The title means do things your own way. I
Hmm.
identify as a girl, as a woman. My campaign, we had like buttons and shirts that said "Run like a girl." I was the first woman elected in Ottawa Centre as member of Parliament. And so it was, and there's another story about Run Like a Girl about being on a soccer team and with many boys. And then I was told I ran like a girl, and I was so horrified and angry because I was like, I knew what it meant. It meant that I wasn't as good as the boys, but I actually was. I mean, I'm just going to say I was pretty good. So I was really, really annoyed. So anyway, it's really about life being a journey, but also some lessons. But I'm too Gen X to tell people you got to do it my way because that's not even going to
Yeah.
work. I
Right.
think it's about having the courage and developing the courage to know that you can make a change and figuring out your own way to do it. And certainly for young people now, I feel like it can be super hard.
Mm.
Talked about, all the different challenges, but in particular, if you just talk about climate and democracy, they're really in a bad state. And
Yeah.
so I want to try to inspire young people to think that I was just a kid from Hamilton who didn't even want to go into politics. I wanted to go to the Olympics. I trained super, super hard. I didn't make it. I went to Olympic trials, but I went way faster and I learned a whole bunch of lessons. But I want young people to think they can do this too. And
Hmm.
also women, because often,
Yes.
I know it's like this whole woke thing. So now being a woman, like you can't even say it that you're a woman or we're doing organization just for women. People are like, well, what about the men? I was like, yeah, they have their own organizations. Like I'm not
Yeah.
anti-man. But it is, it is hard sometimes being a woman. We talk about the pressures of being a mom or being a daughter or, being involved in your community, all this unpaid work, and then, the pressures of being amazing and the pressures of, also trying to eke out your way where there is sexism and it's just a thing. And it's worse if you are LGBTQ plus or you're racialized, you're indigenous. So I also really want women to feel confident because I didn't always feel confident. And people are like,
Hmm.
wow, that's impossible. Well, yes, it is 100% true. I wouldn't even speak at law school, or I would go to events in my like late 20s, early 30s. I wouldn't say anything because it seemed like the guys often had much more to say. And I just didn't feel confident enough. And I forced myself eventually to go to the mic and I was shaking and my voice was shaking. But you get over yourself after a while.
Hmm.
So I want to empower people, in
Hmm.
particular women and young people who want to make a difference and also just want to figure out how to get through the day because sometimes you're just trying to get through the day and also you can have fun. Like it's okay to go dancing
Hmm.
sometimes. Like it's all right. When I
Yes.
was in politics, I would like after a while, I mean, there was a lot going on and I stopped going out. And then one day I was like, this is absurd. And my friends were like, we're going dancing at a place called House of Tark. It's like pinballs and ping ball and pierogi. And Friday nights, like once a month, in the basement. It's in like a little bit grimy basement. They bring in a band that plays 90s music like New Order, and I love New Order. So I started going to those. Even though I was minister, I was like, nah, I don't care anymore. And so I think it's a little bit like that. It's like life is a journey. Things are going to be hard, sometimes
Hmm.
really, really hard in ways you never expected. And
Yeah.
sometimes they'll be awesome. And sometimes you're just going to try to get through the day, but have friends, go do fun things, don't get totally down. And then the next morning, pick yourself up and keep on going.
Yes. I think that's so important. I love how you described it because I do think it's true that it has like many different kind of through lines and different things and that people can pull from it. I loved how it's designed kind of, I think, I don't know if you said this in the book, but kind of scrapbook like it's
Totally scrapbook. It's intended
yes.
not to be boring, and
Yeah, it's not
also you
boring. You
don't
can
have
hear
to
your
read
voice.
chronologically. You don't, you
Yeah.
can read it. If you're
Yes.
like really sick of carbon pricing, which I get it, like I obviously the thing that is close to my heart. You don't
Right.
have to read the chapter hard things are hard, where it has a picture of a pillow that my team gave me because I
Right.
constantly said like, oh, sorry, hard things are hard. Like, I don't know. But yeah, it's intended also to be a little bit fun. And what I like when I hear from folks, and often it's like men or people that like conservatives, it's not intended to be like written just for progressive women or something. Like the format I think is more engaging. And
Mm-hmm.
I try to keep it really real. I try to write the way I speak. And I try to be kind of funny because I think I try to be funny when I speak, but also, not talk down to people. Like carbon pricing was really important. I want people to understand like what went wrong because we have to act on climate.
Right.
So I don't know. It seems to resonate with folks. It also puts less pressure because I remember getting all these political books and they're really like 3 pages of pictures in the middle, and I'd immediately go to that.
Yeah, it's so true.
And then I'd be start the book and I'd be like, okay, this is really boring. So
Yeah, no,
I was like,
it
not
almost
doing the
sounds like
boring
you're at
book.
coffee with you, like you're right, like the way that you've written it. I think it really
That is
does.
good. That's what I
Yeah.
want to hear.
Yeah, no, it
Because I'm not a writer. Like I had to do it my own way. And it was actually a friend who is an artist and a writer who really helped me because I said, like, I think I have something to say around like this theme of run like a girl. And she's like, just start writing. Pick
Mhm.
objects or images and write to those. And that really helped me kind of
Mm.
not get lost in like, then I met this person, then we had this very important meeting, and then I do this, which is like
Right.
kind
It's
of
like the big
boring.
moments along the way that
Yeah.
take you to where you are today. And I think, like you said, like that empowerment message. And I really would encourage like listeners of the podcast to listen to it because um some of the big messages that we often hear from a lot of people who join us, which I think is why people love the podcast, is one, the authenticity of women, especially women in leadership who demonstrate like you can do it too, right? I don't have it all together. Not everything is perfect. And then also just those stories that you have about overcoming barriers and facing challenges and the personal ones, the work ones. Like there really is so much in there for women to find empowerment, like you said, finding their own voice, finding what they want to do next. And it makes me think about women, and this is something I often do, thinking about like what are my values, what's important to me,
Yeah.
what do you want to change, what do you want to advocate for, and then how do you carry that through your life, whether it's personal work or otherwise. And I could also kind of see that throughout the book too. So I think it's really worth people taking a look at it for sure. I wanted to add too that there's a lot of moments in there I think that stand out, right? There's a lot of really big important moments, whether it's politics or your life before or after. What is a moment? It could be like meeting Michelle Obama or like something that just really stands out. It could be, it doesn't have to be serious, just something like fun maybe that you experienced where you're like, that was just cool.
I mean, I was fortunate to be able to do a bunch of things, and so there's like a lot of things that I thought was cool. Like a lot of the work I did with Indigenous peoples, which would bring me
Mm,
close to the land. So I can come back to that. But one that might be like resonate for a lot of people was like there I am going to the White House for the
right.
state dinner. Now, there's a picture of me where I'm literally got a dress that was like a disaster on the dress front because I just was like, I don't know, I got an old BCBG dress I got on sale. I'll just wear that. People are like, what? My sister was like, you cannot go there and not wear a Canadian designer. I was like, what is going on here? I have no time to get a Canadian designer dress, and I'm trying to negotiate this climate deal with them because that's going to help in Canada to push them. So, anyway, there's like me getting my dress fixed while I'm like on my BlackBerry. But it was amazing when we did go to the state dinner because I was just like watching Obama, like President Obama and Obama. And they're very real politicians. Now,
Mm,
everyone has their own style, but I don't know. I was like, they're amazing. Now, they are politicians. I mean, Michelle Obama isn't, but, she's well exposed to politicians and her husband's a politician, but they were just really real. And I loved the way they spoke about each other in a very
mm,
personal way. They weren't embarrassed to talk about their relationship. Often people are like, don't talk to your spouse or like whatever, or kind of fake talk about it, like in a way, just
right.
mention you have a spouse or mention you have kids. Whereas you could tell how much they cared about each other. And they talked about like why they did this and what was important, and it was a future for their kids. Like climate was a real thing, it wasn't just like
Mm,
an economic thing. And then afterwards the coolest thing happened. So I guess we went to the East Wing, which I guess is no longer there,
mm,
thank you Donald Trump. And there was a performance, and it was a performance by Sarah Bareilles, and she had a choir. It was a gospel choir of young women. Most of them were Black, and it was the most amazing thing. Like, first of all, it was
mm.
kind of surreal because I'm looking over and I was like, is that Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively? Like, or Mike Myers? So, like every Canadian, Sandra Oh, every Canadian celebrity is there. But also, it was just so on brand. Like she chose, girls and Sarah Bareilles to sing the song Brave. And I don't know, like I'm a little bit cheesy if you see this book because like I have like literally like some weird things. Like I have the posters I would put on my wall in
Hmm.
university to inspire me. They're very sports related, very Nike, but they were ads designed for women.
Right.
And they were always more than sports. It's like be significant to yourself is like the punchline to one in the very beginning of my book. But I was like, this is what it's like. Like she is given a platform and she is going
Mm,
to damn well use it. And she is going to promote, these amazing young women who are so inspiring and Sarah Bareilles and telling women to be brave. Like, I don't know. I was like, this is the best ever. Like, so, and it wasn't because I was wearing some fancy red designer dress, which was pretty cool and very expensive, that I had to buy. Um, that wasn't the point. The point was how to use your platform to advance what you care about.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That is a
So
really,
everyone can go see the dress is actually pretty
yeah.
cool. It's a
Yeah,
Canadian designer
it
dress. It was the
is.
most expensive dress I've spent ever, like money on a dress and probably ever will spend. But the whole experience of being there and just being true, like being real,
Mhm.
like keeping it
Right.
real and pushing your values. And
Right.
people think that's bad. I'm like, forget it. That is not
Right.
bad. That is what connects people to you. And that is what helps people believe that you are real. And so even if they don't
Yes.
always like what you're talking about, like I can tell you, I'm sure people are sick of carbon pricing now. There was a lot of misleading information put out there by conservative politicians, but I think like I got a lot of respect, including from like conservative men who may not have supported me, but they were like, I don't know, she's got her beliefs and she stands up for them and she keeps it real. She's not just doing talking points. So anyway, that was cool. That was cool. Like Michelle and Barack Obama are pretty cool.
Yes, yes. I think I know for me, and I'm sure for many women, and especially probably a lot of the young women you met, it's always really encouraging to see women in those kinds of roles, right? Having more women in politics and people that, you have long blonde hair and you're being yourself in that role and like seeing younger women in those roles too. Like it's so encouraging that representation piece and how, you talk about some of the women that you looked up to earlier in your life, right? And how that kind of carries through and then you became that person for a lot of people too, which is including people like me. So that's very
Oh,
yeah.
that's nice. I mean, it's funny because it also feels like kind of heavy.
Hmm.
Like because it was super weird. Like one thing I'll just say about being a woman in politics, like it's kind of like the run like a girl when I was playing soccer.
Right.
I was a girl, like I didn't have a problem being a girl, but I just like that wasn't like what I thought about. And then I got into politics. And so, first of all, we had a gender balanced cabinet, which I thought was amazing. I was like, just announce it like it's because it's 2015, and then let's move on. Like, there are a lot of great women, and let's not have a long conversation. And a lot of commentators were like, oh my God, we're going to find the woman. I was like, I'm so done with this conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
Unfortunately, then it became a bit of a mantra or meme, but I think also then I was just it was super weird when suddenly I'm getting, people are going
Hmm.
after me because of my gender. I was like, and then at the same time, women and girls are looking up to me. Like, I was like, whoa, this is a lot. I'm just trying to do a job. And then it took me a while to just own it. Like, then I
Mm.
was like, I don't care. Like, for a while, like, I really hated Climate Barbie, as people probably know, it was called
Yes,
Climate
yeah.
Barbie. And I mean, my kids were like, who cares? Barbie's an astronaut. And I was like, I just know what that guy is saying, or these
Yeah.
people, or
It's
like,
not
there
meant as
was
a compliment, kids.
no, it's not meant as like you're amazing. It's meant as you're a bimbo. You are only there in that position because you're a woman and laced with climate denial. So it was annoying. And not that I care, but I did not play with Barbies. So it's kind of weird. My mom wouldn't let me play with Barbies when I was a
Ah,
kid. So I played mostly like outside, like I don't know, kind of throwing a football around or in our creek, plotting about how we could, take the seaweed, put it in a jar in the sun for a week, and then throw it at the boys that would break our forts. Like that was
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
me. So suddenly to be like taking this mantle on, but then I realized it is important. The representation
Mm.
is important. And when I
Hmm.
spoke out, which I didn't do that often, it's just like anytime like all these things would happen to me, then journalists would be like running over. But when I did speak out, it was interesting because people were like, yeah, that's not okay. Why are you calling her Climate Barbie? Or
Hmm.
worse, like someone wrote the C word on my office, or a lot of other incidents happened. And it was just interesting because it's so hard in a way being a woman in politics because like people
Yeah.
are telling you how you should look. Like I'd ride my bike because I live in Ottawa and I would be able to ride my bike to Parliament. but I was often in a rush, like every single other mother. So
Yeah.
there I am rushing. So I would just wear my outfit. Like if it wasn't pouring rain or was super cold or something, I just wear what I was wearing. And sometimes I even have heels on because I was just in a rush. I knew as soon as I got there, I'd lock my bike up and maybe have to go to a cabinet meeting or something. So I didn't care. And then people are like, oh my God, look at Climate Barbie. She's like, as if she's bike riding. She's actually, I doubt it. Like she's not really riding. I was like, okay, can you just leave me alone? So
Yeah. Yeah.
but the flip side was the good thing about being able to be, to represent. Although, of course, I have my own experience. And that's part of actually why I talk about growing up. Like I'm from the Hammer, Hamilton. I don't know if any Hamiltonians out there. I quite loved being from Hamilton, the underdog. My dad was Irish. I grew up in an Irish Catholic family that was hugely influential. My grandfather fought for Irish independence. If anyone thought I was going to be a pushover, they were wrong. And I was a swimmer, and that gives you discipline, but it also, there's an understanding of team because we
Hmm.
won at university as a team. So
Right.
I don't know. It's just interesting, like just making sure everyone just knows, like I'm just a real person, and like
Right.
yeah, I have blonde hair, but I'm also like just trying to do my job. I'm
Yes.
just trying to do
Yes.
my job. But if I can inspire women about like what I've learned and how to be authentic, that's great.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's really important. You mentioned earlier about the nature stuff, and something that I noticed in your book, which is really interesting, Catherine, is the work that you did with the Lutzel K Dene for the Theodore Nene National
Yeah.
Park. And the reason is because earlier in my career, I was one of the lobbyists that advocated for the community.
Nice.
Yeah, so it would have been before your time, because these things take a long time. So I often talk about that as an example of something about how sometimes as an advocate, you just get to be part of something for a little bit of time. And, it takes years to do things like that, but eventually they happen, and it happened under your leadership. So I thought I would share that story.
Oh, that's super great that you were out there in the early days because often, you kind of get the glory. Like a lot of work had gone
Oh,
in, like
yeah.
especially by the Let's Okay Dene, but just
Hmm.
so much work had gone in to create this new protected area, and it was really hard. That's great that you were part of it. So you should take some real credit. Have you been up there?
I
Oh,
haven't,
it's
but I would
it's
love
super
to.
great.
Oh,
I was able to go. Like I was really fortunate, and people knew, like my parks people and my Environment and Climate Change Canada people knew that I really loved being outside in
right.
nature. So
Hmm.
I would get these experiences. They'd be like, "Would you like to camp out with the Let's Look Dene?" I was like, "Oh yeah, damn right I
Yes.
would." And
Yeah.
so there I am out with them on the land, camping out.
Mm.
They catch fish. We're hanging out. They're telling stories.
Yes.
Like it was so amazing. And also like stories of hardship. Like I remember
Hmm.
one of the women there had, been I think she'd left her community. She'd had a daughter. It was all
Hmm.
really hard. And then she came back to be like a ranger or to be on the land. And she actually
Yeah.
felt connected again. And I was just like, yeah, this is like real. This is real. And
Yeah.
it's so
It's
amazing,
impactful. This work
beautiful.
matters. It's, yeah.
Yeah, and like also like you can't even understand the connection that Indigenous people have,
Hmm.
most of us, because we don't have connections with Indigenous people, but we're so disconnected from
Mm.
like our nature, and it's so
Yes.
extraordinary. So yeah, that was pretty awesome. So congrats to you, everyone else who
Ah,
worked
thank
on
you.
it. Most of all, the Let's Okay Denny. Just good job.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Amazing, amazing, kind, wonderful people. You talk a lot in the book throughout this stream about like motherhood and some of the challenges that you went through. And one of the things that I was very impressed by was that when you were a cabinet minister, you shut off your phone at night. And just you saying that in the book, I was like, oh, I feel like I have anxiety about that.
I
So
wasn't always amazing about it.
how
That was
how how did you like get there? Like, what are the conversations you have with yourself to be like, it is so important to just shut off your phone, to shut off work? Like, it's okay. Like, what message would you give to women to allow them to step away from all the things and just focus on their family?
Um, I just felt massive amounts of guilt
Mm.
because I
That's
was
real.
That is real. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
maybe I'm like I grew up Catholic, so it's like
Yeah, yeah.
accentuated. But I mean, I ran for 2 years in politics, so that was a lot of time when my kids were really young to get elected. Then I get elected, and I'm immediately in cabinet, like flying to Paris for the Paris Agreement negotiations, having to negotiate a climate plan across Canada. So I'm traveling across Canada. And it was interesting the way the whole story came out because I've been feeling super guilty and I knew I was being a crappy mom. Like, to be honest, like you just
Mm,
know it. And I felt really crappy myself. And so that's also not even a great way to be doing a job.
mhm.
So one day I said to my team, okay, I know everything is an emergency, but it's not really everything is an emergency.
Right.
So what is an emergency is I got to get in a better space with my family. My kids are little. And one of the great things about living in Ottawa was like the office was just down the road. One of the bad things living in Ottawa as opposed to other MPs, and generally it's more upside, but everyone knew I was in town. Like I
Right.
wasn't,
Yes.
I couldn't say,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm in Ottawa, like in Parliament,
Yeah.
I can't come to your event." I would get invited to these events and feel like I had pressure to go to these events, and I was like, "Okay, what is this advancing?"
Well, and it's
It's
also
not
it's the trade-off, right? It's the trade-off time
It's
of
a
your
massive trade-off, and to be
Mhm.
honest, it didn't make any sense in terms of I knew what we need to do on climate. We had consultations regularly during the day, and so cocktail receptions or these other things
Mhm.
were not particularly useful. And beyond that, just always working was like I would come home exhausted and
Oh
like,
yeah.
say goodnight to my kids or they're already asleep. So one day I just had enough. And so I said to my team, okay, I'm going home and I'm turning off the phone. You have my home, like fixed telephone if there is an emergency. Use
Right.
that very carefully.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then a journalist, I had to do a media call that day about something completely unrelated. And they were like, "Oh, how's the work-life balance?" And I was like, "Oh, that's really funny. You should say that because it's terrible." And so today I have decided, like I've told my team that I'm turning off my phone so I can literally go home, have dinner with my kids, actually do what regular moms do, which is like kind of nag them about their homework or their piano, and then go back to work. Because it wasn't like I wasn't going to work. I would work after that. And I get up super early in the morning because I have briefing binders like this.
Yes, yeah.
And yeah, and the journalist didn't even care about the other story. I don't even know what the other story was. The whole story was Catherine McKenna turns off her phone. And what
Jeez.
was so great about it, Stephanie, is that I had mums and dads who would walk
Hmm.
up to me on the street, often public servants, but they would just say me, "Thank you for saying that," because like
Yeah, it
it's
gives permission to
absurd.
everybody
It is
else.
absurd. Like I
Yes.
have a family on top of everything else, and I really think that it's not, how many hours you do every day. It's
Mm.
actually what is the quality of your engagement. And if you're sitting at home like thinking, "Oh my God, I'm really worried about my child acts," or I don't know, like, are they've got an assignment, or, are they actually like their clothes being washed? Like, it's pretty
Yeah.
basic things. Like
Yes.
you can't be good at your job. So I think, yeah, I mean, it was, how do you get brave enough to do that? Well, look, I was like, I'm minister and I'm constantly away. And so I'm just gonna do it. And who's gonna tell me not to? Like the prime minister,
Hmm.
like prime minister has kids too. So too bad.
Yes.
One is not always in that situation. So I do recognize that. And in particular, I was like, okay, it's great that I can do this. It's great that I can serve as a
Mm.
model. It depends on your boss, but a lot of people
Right.
women do shift work. So they literally have no choice.
Right.
But I just decided that given the pressures of my job and the need to really perform, and that's everything from how you do media, not screwing up, to like being able to think really hard about how to, what policy will work, or to, how to get an outcome in a negotiation. I needed to be kind of at the top of my game. So
Yes.
that's what I did. I also swam. I would do my
Yes.
swimming twice a week, early morning. And that was like, I was like, I am also doing that. I need to be able to do
Hmm.
two things. One, be with my kids when I need to be with my kids, and two, swim. And my book club. I had a book club. Everyone should have a book club. I basically often never read the books. I sometimes didn't even know what the books were. But I would
Some
just be like, I'd show up at the book club. Everyone was so nice. They didn't even ask me about my work because they were like, I think it's probably pretty hectic and hard for
yes.
Catherine. And it was just like, chill out, have a glass of wine, talk
Yes.
about a book. If I didn't read the book, then I wouldn't talk too much about the book. But um, yeah, I was trying to like, I also think it's really important, and this is what I've learned through life. Like, even when you're in these high profile, really demanding jobs, to have some perspective on what is
Mm,
really important. And that includes prioritizing your work. Like, not everything
mm,
I was doing was super important. I came to work with three things I needed to do every day. I knew those were overarching goals in my time as minister. They were in my mandate letter, and I decided these were the key things. And so some of the other things, there were lots of other good people. I would give some direction, but I was fortunate. I had Stephanie, I do have to admit, like, yeah, it required me to be a bit brave or kind of just at the end of my tether, probably, but
ah,
not everyone has the luxury to do
mhm.
that. So I think that's also important. But to the extent it inspired some other women to like go home
Yeah.
at like, at 5:30 or 6, like that's good.
Yeah. It is real and important stuff to talk about. I know one time I was interviewing a national journalist actually, and I had asked her about, I forget if it was about like motherhood or being a woman in politics. And she was like, well, this morning I was crying because I felt like I was being a bad mom. And I was like, okay, let's talk about that.
No, but
So, right?
imagine
It
how
just,
many
yeah.
how many moms feel
Yes.
that.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
maybe at once a week. Like
Right.
sometimes I was like, this is terrible. And even when you try to have balance, it's sometimes really hard. But
Right.
yeah, I think we should talk about it. Like the heck, it's just
Yeah.
life. Like
Yes.
it
Yeah.
is also about performance. Like if you're gonna actually do your job well, you
Yeah.
also need to
You need to
have
have a
taken
clear
care of your
mind, be
family and
smart,
taken
and
care of yourself. Like
yeah,
so.
it's hard because you're trying to do two things really, really well, right? Let alone all the other things. One of the other things throughout the book that you talked about, and I think is kind of a through line, is about how to keep fighting through barriers and through up and downs. You dealt with a lot of change, right? You had advocated really hard for things like the consumer carbon tax, for instance, which you talked in the book about, what maybe could have been done differently. When really hard things like that happen, like what perspective, like what advice would you give women when something devastating happens and they need to move forward to the next thing, or they need, like, what would you say?
Well, I'll just be 100% honest. When we lost it, and it was a journey to losing it. There's many reasons.
Hmm. People
It
can read the
sucked.
book.
Read the
Yes.
book, you're like,
Yeah.
oh God, not carbon pricing again. But it really sucked because I worked really, really hard and I tried to be innovative. Like I was like I
Hmm.
enlisted Arnold Schwarzenegger to do a video for me just so I could say, we're terminating pollution. Like I thought it was amazing when I did that. Like I did
Right.
all these different things. We won at the Supreme Court. And I like put it all in, like left everything on the ice for that one. And when we lost, it was really hard. So I think number one, when bad things happen, like things that you worked really hard for and they don't go your way, it's okay to be mad or sad. Like that's going to
Hmm.
be normal. I was really mad and sad. And it's pretty complicated in that case because it was also with a new leader I supported. And anyway, it was like, it was complicated. But in life, we all know, like, when you're like a kid and like, I don't know, I just didn't realize life would be so hard. And that doesn't mean it's not amazing because maybe the
Hmm.
fact that it's really hard makes like the really great things great or the little things
Hmm.
more important. Yeah, I'm someone who just gets on with it. Like, what are you gonna do?
Hmm.
Like I was sad, I was mad. I had to go swim some more and like probably get out and hike and actually go dance and like kind of talk to friends and they probably like, oh my God, I'm so like Catherine's ranting again. So that's probably true. But then I just realized like it's too important to
Mm.
get off course by one bad thing that happens. Like climate change is still going to happen. It's
Hmm.
still real. We're in a crisis. So me crying over a policy we didn't get is a waste of time. We'll
Right.
just have to get up and do more. And I think really my swimming background really helped me because I used to always want to win in swimming. I mean, I
Mm.
still always want to win. I sometimes race, but you kind of realize that some of it is just the journey, the training, like the hard, putting in hard work. And
Right.
many times you're going to get up on the blocks and not win. Like
Right.
that's the way it is. And then you might try harder and you still might not beat your best time. So
Right.
I don't know, like, I could just see that it was hard and it's okay, as I say, to be sad and mad.
Hmm.
But then if you can, because I think sometimes things are just so hard for people. Like sometimes you need help from others, from
Right.
friends, and even like therapy or whatever, because there can be really terrible things. So I don't want to diminish really hard
Right.
things that happen in life. Um, but I'm just someone who, in the end, I'm like, okay, like bad things happen.
Hmm.
And what are you gonna do about it? Like, are you just gonna sit there and like
Yeah.
lie on the couch and feel sorry for yourself? Are you gonna get up and do something else or do more or do like
Like do
approach
it
things
differently.
differently?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's when I was like, yeah, okay, I'm not defeated here. Like, what the heck? I'm still Catherine McKenna who still cares about climate and
Yes.
I'm gonna get up and keep on going. And I knew other people were doing that too, because working on
Hmm.
climate is very, very hard. Because often you get, two steps forward, one step back, or one step forward, two steps back. And so there were other women that were really supportive, and I had a good network.
Mm.
I had a good network, including, as I say, my book friends, my mom and my sister, my other, university team friends. They weren't even necessarily like at all familiar with really the weeds of carbon pricing, but they were just there to kind of help me just
Hmm.
regroup. But as I
Yes.
say, what are you going to do? What are
Yeah.
you going to do? Like my marriage fell apart. Like I met this super amazing guy and I got remarried. Now we have 4 kids. Like, I don't know. Life can also be so unexpected, but
Hmm.
you have to be open, to failing. And
Hmm.
I know it's so trite and it seems very
Yes.
tech bro because everyone's like tech bros are like fail to succeed. And I'm like, oh gosh, you guys are the worst. But it is kind of true in that sometimes you're going to fail and then you get up and
Hmm.
you try and then you can sometimes succeed or unexpectedly amazing things can happen. So
Hmm.
meeting Pete, and he's awesome and he works on democracy. He's got a great daughter. I now have like a 6-year-old and then 21-year-old, 19-year-olds, 17-year-old. So like it's kind of a crazy blended family, but it's great.
It's amazing. It makes me think a lot about it's the perseverance, right? And in the book you
Yeah.
can see you talk about some of the other things you did afterwards, right? So you're still moving goalposts, right? And it comes back to that conversation we had earlier about your beliefs, right? And how to kind of you just keep going through life in the way that's important to you and what matters to you and what you care about advocating for, right? And then you were able to continue uh, to keep doing that, which is really important. I guess I would ask you, Catherine, if you think you would ever run again for politics.
I don't think so. People ask me this all the time. Someone's like, "Oh, there's a rumor going around that you're going to run for the leader of the Ontario Liberal Party." I was like, that's very flattering, but 100% no." I mean, look, look, I don't know if you ever, I just am outcome oriented. Like, I never went into life to being a politician. I never went into politics to be in politics forever. I went to get things done. So I guess, I don't know if there was a way I could be super useful and there was no one else. But I actually think in politics, you need new people. Like, one of the challenges we have is people, I mean, in the US, it's like the worst offenders, but they're in
Right.
politics forever. Politics is hard and exhausting, and we
It
need
is. Yeah.
new ideas. And so when you look at Zoran Mandami, I hope I said his name right, but I was just like, yes, this guy is young, and maybe you don't agree with everything, but he's bringing a new approach and new
Mhm.
energy, and we desperately need that. So yeah, I don't think so. I'm happy to like super help people. Like I've always said, like if women want to go into politics, I'm happy to help.
Well, that's a great message for people listening. If you're interested in running for politics, is there anything else you wanted to share before we move into the rapid fire to close out?
No.
Okay. Well, I look forward to reading whatever your next book is because I know you have another chapter because you're
Oh
still
my
young.
gosh.
So I'm like, what's next? What's Catherine going to do next?
Definitely
As
not a book. Definitely that is not my next thing.
but
This is
maybe
for a
maybe
long
in like
time.
20 years, as we close off on rapid fire, what's the best rule you ever broke?
Oh, I've broken so many rules in my life. Oh, I mean, this is a very little rule, but just recently, like there's a swim area and there's like a little, it's 25 meters, it's open water swimming. And I was like, I don't know if the water's clean here, it's got to be clean outside. So I just swam outside. So I'm not someone, if a rule, like, and I don't mean laws. I just
Right.
mean like rules that are made up that are nonsensical or traditions, then I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just gonna break it. So that's a good question. What is the thing I broke? Yeah, I mean, like even in my campaign, you'll read in my book, like everyone's always telling you, you got to do things this way. I was like, well, I don't really care. And I even set up my own rules. So I was like, oh, okay, team, these are my 10 rules. And that's what we're doing. And then I had my secret rule, which I quite liked, which is like, I am doing this my way and I'm going to be true to myself. Like, this is really
Hmm.
important to me. So, everyone's going to tell me how I'm supposed to look, what I'm supposed to do, how you do things. And they also had bad rules. Like, sometimes they're bad rules. They're like, we're not going to go to poor areas because poor people don't vote. Some people, I'm
Hmm.
not saying, like, I'm not saying who, but people would say this. They're like, you got to get votes. Yeah, I get it. But it also matters how you go get votes. And by the way, it really matters to hear from everyone. And actually, a lot of them joined my campaign and volunteered and convinced people in their
Hmm.
communities to vote for me. So it was smart. They were like, don't go to young people. Young people don't vote. I got so many young people in my campaign who'd never been involved who volunteered and knocked on doors for like 2 years. So I don't know. There's a lot of rules that can be broken. I mean, not just flippantly. I mean,
Hmm.
I guess sometimes swimming outside of like the little area might be a little bit flippant, but I was just like, I need to get a swim in.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly. That's great. Those are great examples. Who's a woman that inspires you?
well, I talk about this, I talk about it in the book, Sheila Copps. So,
Hmm.
Sheila Copps, I mean, I don't know if people know her, she's a Hamilton politician. We're very different styles. But just seeing her as a politician, because I was like, what is this politics thing? Like, my dad was very Irish and they care about politics. So it was like big issues. Free trade, we'd have to have a debate about it. But
Right.
I just was like, oh, this is real, a real woman. And she was a mother. So it was even, and she was a single mother. And
Mm.
like she got attacked in the House of Commons and she just gave it back. And so Sheila Copps was definitely, even though, as I say, we're kind of different approaches, I thought she was amazing. But there's so many like I have
Mhm.
role models that are young. Like people
Yes,
always
yeah.
think role models have to be old. Like there's this woman, this young woman, Sophia Mather. We did a pinky promise when she was 10 and we were going to work on climate. Then she did the first climate strikes in North America in Sudbury. Then she went on, and if you look, you will find the litigation against the government of Ontario, the Ford
Hmm.
government not living up to their targets is Mather versus government of Ontario. Like she's a role model. And so I think there's just so many awesome women and girls. In particular, I see it on climate, but I see it across the board. So I don't know, I got a lot of role models, and that's what I love. I also had great men like Brian
Hmm.
Mulroney, who was a conservative,
Yes.
prime minister. People don't even understand it, but I spent a lot of time kind of courting conservative male politicians, progressive conservatives, because of carbon pricing. I know here we go again, but because it uses the market. It's actually a
Hmm.
conservative policy. And he was so great. And he also would talk about like it's not about the polls. It is like, do you want to be remembered that you were really popular? Do you want to be remembered after you die that you did things? And he's passed away.
Hmm.
But he was a extremely progressive leader on the environment, and that's what matters. So lots of good people that would cross my path, but it's not always the people you expect. Like on my
Hmm.
swim team, I had a really amazing woman, and she had breast cancer, and she would just
Hmm.
come to practice anyway.
Hmm.
And Peggy, and I just feel like that's what we have to do. We have to see role models, not in this really fancy way. It's like people
Right.
that you see who are
Yes.
doing things that really actually are extraordinary or
Right.
who stand up for things in the face of adversity, who
Right.
are brave. Like
Yeah.
bravery to me is super important, like being
Right.
brave when it is hard.
Yes. Yeah,
And
because
there's
that
not
is
enough of that.
extraordinary, right? That's extraordinary. You're making me think about a nursing friend of mine who ran a bunch of the vaccination clinics during COVID, right? And like that was such
That's
an important job
amazing.
during that time, right?
Like the healthcare
Yeah.
workers and it at their own, the threats to their own life, or
Yes.
essential workers who are delivering everything to our houses and we
Right.
get to stay in and be protected. So
Right. Tell me, as we end with the last question, what's a book that changed your life
Oh God, what's a book that changed my
or like
life?
impacted your perspective?
You know, there are different books. Like people are gonna think this is kind of weird, but one I kind of liked, like when I read Naomi Klein's No Logo, even though we're
Mhm.
from different political parties, just calling out like big business and how things work and standing up for, little people and all, like I also like the style of her book. My book is more scrapbook like that. I mean, there's a lot of different books. I mean, some of them are wonky, like An Inconvenient Truth by Al Gore, who I ended up getting to know. I thought that was a really great book. My dad was a big James Joyce fan, so The Dubliners in his little book, The Dead is an extraordinary book, and I like literature. So I think there's a lot of books. In my book club, we'd read so many kind of different books. We read Joan Didion. So there's lots of books I like. I actually find that what I need from a book is very different at different times. Like
Mm.
sometimes I just did an event in Montreal at Joie de Livre. My friend Claire Treche, who runs a foundation on climate, she and her sister set up a bookstore on top of everything else they do. And she was like, it's like only romances that are really happy. That to be a romance, you have to have a happy ending, or sci-fi. And so she gave me some books. So I was like, I needed this summer, I needed romance books that were like, not too heavy and just kind of
Yeah.
fun. So
Oh,
I
that's
don't know.
great.
I feel like there's lots of great books out there. So I don't know. I'm looking at my desk because I don't know why I have it. Maybe because I was reading it. Where the Wild Things Are. I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
know. My friend Mike Quinn was probably reading this book. That's a great book.
Yes.
So I don't know,
Yes.
just keep on reading. What I want is people to read. And that's
Yes.
why my book, I really think it's great that so many people are like, I can get around this book because sometimes
Yeah.
you're so busy and we're so distracted. So
Yeah,
I
it's
do
not super
hope
big.
people
It's
like my book.
digestible. Read it. It's a good coffee table book. Or because the other thing, Catherine, is the way that you've written it up. Each section, some are a page, some are two or three, and that's kind of it. So you can read it quickly between things too. So it's good for moms.
I
Won't
know
keep
I
you
would read my book
longer.
probably like you. I would read my book and I was like, okay, what did I read yesterday? Like that long thing,
Yeah.
I can't even remember. So we're busy. So
Yeah.
hopefully people like it.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I hope people pick it up. Thank you so much for your time. It was really a joy to talk to you and get to know you better and have the audience hear all of your great advice and check out your book. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Stephanie. Take
Thanks.
care. Bye.
Thanks for joining us on Women Don't Do That. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating or review. Connect with us on Instagram at Women Don't Do That and visit our website www.womendon'tdothat.com for more details. Join our Patreon to support our work. Find all of the links in the show notes. Remember, you have the power to transform your what ifs into let's go. Together, let's redefine your possible. Until next time. The opinions expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Women Don't Do That, Stephanie Mitten, or affiliated brands.